Imagine you're sitting at a traffic light. Next to you pulls up a brand new luxury SUV. $90,000. Perfect paint. Expensive watch visible through the window. Designer sunglasses. You look at the driver and instinctively think, that person must be rich. Then you look at the 10-year-old Toyota in front of you. Nothing impressive. Nothing luxurious. Nothing that makes you look twice. But what you can't see is that the person driving the Toyota has $1.4 million invested. The person driving the luxury SUV, they might have a $1,500 monthly car payment. That's the strange thing about wealth. The things that make someone look wealthy are often the exact things that make it harder to become wealthy. And the things that actually create wealth are usually invisible. You can't see someone's brokerage account. You can't see their retirement balance. You can't see that their mortgage is paid off. You can't see the emergency fund sitting quietly in the bank. You can't see that they could lose their job tomorrow and survive for 2 years. You can only see what they bought. And that creates one of the greatest illusions in personal finance. We mistake spending for wealth. But genuinely wealthy people often understand something completely different. Money becomes most powerful when nobody knows you have it. Let's understand why. The major problem is you can see spending, but you can't see wealth. Suppose two people earn exactly the same salary, $150,000 a year. Person A gets the raise they've been waiting for. Immediately. The car gets upgraded. The apartment gets bigger. The wardrobe improves. Vacations become more expensive. Restaurants become nicer. From the outside, they're crushing it. Person B receives the same raise, but almost nothing changes. Same apartment, same reliable car. Maybe they take a slightly better vacation. Maybe they enjoy a few more things. But most of the additional income quietly disappears into investments. 5 years later, person A looks richer. Person B is richer. That's because income and wealth are completely different things. Income is money entering your life. Wealth is money you manage to keep. Someone can earn $300,000 and spend $295,000. Someone else can earn $100,000 and spend $65,000. The first person has the more impressive lifestyle. The second person has the larger financial margin. And financial margin is where wealth begins. This is why genuinely wealthy people can sometimes look surprisingly ordinary. They're playing a game you can't see. Here's where this gets psychological. Humans are social creatures. For thousands of years, status mattered. Status could mean better access to food, better partners, greater influence, more protection. Today, status still matters psychologically, but instead of displaying hunting ability or tribal importance, we display cars, watches, homes, clothes, vacations, restaurants, phones, and social media made this dramatically more powerful. You don't simply experience something anymore. You can broadcast it. The vacation isn't just a vacation. It's evidence. The car isn't just transportation. It's evidence. The expensive dinner isn't just food. It's evidence. Evidence that you're doing well. And there's nothing inherently wrong with enjoying expensive things. The problem begins when you're no longer buying something because you value it. You're buying it because you want someone else to value you. That's an extremely expensive habit. Imagine spending an extra $600 every month maintaining a lifestyle that signals success. Nicer car, clothing, restaurants, subscriptions, upgrades. That's $7,200 every year. Now imagine investing that $600 monthly instead, at a hypothetical 8% annual return over 25 years. You could end up with roughly $570,000. Think about that. The difference between appearing slightly more successful and potentially having hundreds of thousands of dollars could be a collection of purchases you barely remember. That's opportunity cost. Every dollar can only do one job at a time. A dollar spent today cannot simultaneously be invested for tomorrow. And genuinely wealthy people tend to understand this extremely well. The turning point is when you realize most people aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you imagined. That $4,000 watch, someone notices for 4 seconds. That luxury car, someone might admire it at a traffic light. That designer jacket, maybe somebody compliments it, and then they continue thinking about their own life. Yet you could spend years paying for the impression. Imagine financing an $80,000 car instead of buying a reliable $35,000 car. That's a $45,000 difference before considering financing and other ownership costs. Suppose that $45,000 remained invested for 20 years and hypothetically earned 8% annually. Without adding another dollar, it could grow to roughly $210,000. Suddenly the question isn't, can I afford the expensive car? It's, is this car worth what this money could become? Wealthy people don't necessarily say no. That's important. Being wealthy doesn't mean refusing everything enjoyable. It means understanding what you're exchanging. Maybe you love cars. Fine. Maybe driving that car genuinely improves your life. Then perhaps it's worth it to you. But if you're spending $80,000 because you're hoping someone at work thinks you've made it, that's a very different transaction. You're not buying a car. You're renting approval. And approval has terrible resale value. Here's the irony. When people don't have much money, they often imagine wealth as having more things. Then some people accumulate enough wealth and discover the thing they value most isn't things. It's control. Imagine Monday morning, 2 employees walk into the same office, same department, similar salaries, same manager. The manager calls both of them into a meeting. We need everyone working this weekend. The first employee has $18,000 in credit card debt, a $900 car payment, a large mortgage, almost no emergency savings. They don't want to work Saturday, but realistically, what are they going to say? The second employee has no consumer debt, a year of expenses saved, a large investment portfolio, monthly expenses far below their income. They may still choose to work Saturday, but here's the difference. It's a choice. That's wealth, not the ability to buy everything, the ability to say no when necessary. No to a terrible boss. No to an unhealthy workplace. No to overtime you don't need. No to staying somewhere because missing one paycheck would destroy you. Financial freedom doesn't always look like someone sitting on a beach at 35. Sometimes it looks like someone sitting in a meeting, completely calm because they know they can leave and nobody else in the room knows. There's another interesting psychological shift. Imagine your net worth is $10,000. You desperately want to feel successful. A $2,000 purchase can temporarily create that feeling. Now imagine you've spent 20 years building wealth. Your investments are worth $2 million. Your house is manageable. You have no consumer debt. You could survive years without employment. Do you still need a stranger to believe you're successful? Maybe not. Because you know, you don't need to manufacture the feeling through purchases. This is why some genuinely wealthy people become increasingly comfortable appearing ordinary. Not all wealthy people, obviously. Some love luxury, some love exotic cars, some love expensive homes. And there's nothing automatically financially irresponsible about that when they can genuinely afford it. The important difference is proportion. A $100,000 car means something completely different to someone worth $300,000 than it does to someone worth $30 million. To the first person, it could represent a huge percentage of everything they own. To the second, it may barely affect their financial position. The object looks identical. The financial reality behind it isn't. That's why judging wealth by possessions is almost impossible. There's another reason quiet wealth becomes so powerful. Lifestyle inflation. Imagine you're 25. You earn $60,000. You live reasonably well. A few years later, you earn $80,000, then $100,000, then $130,000. You'd expect financial stress to disappear. But something strange often happens. Your definition of normal expands. The $1,500 apartment becomes the $2,500 apartment. The paid-off car becomes a $700 monthly payment. The casual vacation becomes a luxury vacation. Restaurants become more expensive. Your income rises by $70,000. Yet you somehow don't feel dramatically richer. Why? Because your obligations grew alongside your income. This is hedonic adaptation. Humans adjust remarkably quickly to improvements. The new car feels incredible. Then, it's your car. The larger apartment feels incredible. Then, it's your apartment. The new phone feels incredible. 2 months later, it's just your phone. The excitement depreciates. The payment doesn't. Genuinely wealthy people often protect themselves from this by allowing their lifestyle to grow more slowly than their income. Suppose your take-home pay increases by $1,000 per month. You could increase your lifestyle by $1,000. Or you could improve your lifestyle by $400 and invest the other $600. You still feel richer. You still enjoy some of your raise. But your wealth grows too. Do this repeatedly across 10 or 20 years, and the difference becomes enormous. We usually define luxury through objects: first-class flights, expensive hotels, sports cars, large homes. But there's another form of luxury that doesn't photograph particularly well: waking up without financial panic, taking 3 months away from work, leaving a toxic job, helping your parents, spending time with your children, starting a business without immediately worrying about rent, turning down a client you hate, taking care of yourself when life goes wrong. That's flexibility. And flexibility requires unused resources. If every dollar you earn is already committed, you might look wealthy while having almost no flexibility. Imagine earning $20,000 every month. But your lifestyle requires $19,000. Now imagine earning $8,000 while comfortably living on $4,500. Who has more breathing room? The answer isn't as obvious as the salaries suggest. One has a more expensive life. The other may have more control over their life. This is why savings aren't simply money you haven't spent yet. Savings are stored options. $10,000 buys some options. $100,000 buys more. $1 million invested buys significantly more. And once you start thinking about money as options rather than objects, showing off becomes less interesting. There's also a mathematical reason genuinely wealthy people may not constantly display their wealth. Money that isn't consumed can remain productive. Imagine 2 friends receive $25,000 bonuses. Friend A immediately upgrades their car. Friend B spends $5,000 celebrating and invests $20,000. 1 year later, the difference might not look dramatic. 5 years, still maybe nothing life-changing. But leave that $20,000 invested for 30 years at a hypothetical 8% average annual return. Without adding another dollar, it could become roughly $200,000. That's the weird thing about compounding. The beginning looks unimpressive. The ending doesn't. And because the process is slow, wealth creation often looks boring from the outside. No dramatic purchase, no announcement, no champagne bottle, just another automatic investment, another month, another year, another decade. Until eventually, the numbers become difficult to ignore. At $100,000 invested, an 8% year would represent around $8,000 in growth. At $500,000, around $40,000. At $1 million, around $80,000. Not guaranteed, of course. Markets don't return the same amount every year. Some years are positive, some are negative. But the principle is what matters. The larger your productive assets become, the more powerful percentage growth becomes in dollar terms. Consumption interrupts that process. Quiet wealth feeds it. This leads to one of the most useful mental shifts you can make. Stop assuming you know who's wealthy. You don't. The person in the huge house might own almost all of it, or the bank might. The person driving the Porsche might have $10 million invested, or a giant monthly payment. The person wearing ordinary clothes might be struggling financially, or they might have enough invested to never work again. You simply don't know. Visible consumption tells you one thing: someone spent money. It doesn't tell you how much money remains. And the second number is often much more important. If someone earns $200,000 and spends $200,000, their lifestyle might be impressive. Their margin is zero. If someone earns $120,000 and spends $75,000, their lifestyle might look less impressive. But $45,000 remains available every year to save, invest, and build ownership. Over decades, that's where the separation happens. And maybe this is the biggest reason genuinely wealthy people often don't look the way we expect. Real wealth is boring. It's automatic transfers, it's keeping a perfectly good car, it's ignoring a sale, it's increasing your retirement contribution after a raise, it's owning index funds nobody wants to hear about at dinner, it's keeping cash available for emergencies, it's buying something expensive because you genuinely love it, not because you're hoping someone notices. None of this performs particularly well on social media. You know what does? A Lamborghini, a mansion, a Rolex, a private jet. Because consumption is visible, compounding isn't. So we grow up seeing the visible part of money and assuming that's what wealth looks like. But behind many genuinely wealthy lives is something much quieter. Years of saying, I could buy that, but I'd rather keep the money. Eventually, that sentence becomes, I could stop working, but I'd rather keep doing something I enjoy. That's the transformation. Money stops being something you use to prove yourself and becomes something that gives you control over yourself. Imagine two people walking into a restaurant. One desperately wants everyone to know they're successful. The watch needs to be recognizable. The car needs to be visible. The clothes need the right logo. The other person walks in wearing a $30 shirt. Nobody looks twice. Nobody knows they have $3 million invested. Nobody knows their home is paid off. Nobody knows they could walk away from their job tomorrow. And they don't care. Which person is richer? You can't answer from what they're wearing. That's exactly the point. The greatest financial milestone may not be the day you can finally afford expensive things. It may be the day you realize you don't need expensive things to prove you can afford them. Because genuinely wealthy people eventually understand something most of us spend years learning. Looking rich requires other people's attention. Being rich doesn't. Real wealth lives in the gap between what you could spend and what you choose to spend. It's the money nobody sees, the investment account nobody compliments, the debt you don't have, the purchases you didn't make, the years of freedom quietly sitting inside your portfolio. So the next time a 10-year-old Toyota stops beside a $100,000 luxury car, don't assume you know which driver is wealthier. One is showing you what they bought. The other might be hiding what they kept. And over a lifetime, what you keep can matter far more than what you show. If there's one thing I'd like you to remember from this video, it's this. The goal isn't to look poor. And the goal isn't to feel guilty for enjoying money. The goal is to stop confusing the appearance of wealth with wealth itself. Buy the things you genuinely value. Enjoy your money. Build a life you actually like. But don't sacrifice 20 years of financial freedom trying to impress someone for 20 seconds. Because the ultimate sign of wealth isn't having enough money for everyone to notice. It's having enough freedom that you no longer care whether they do. I'm Morgan Vowles. Build small, grow strong, live free, and I'll see you in the next video.